Hello, and welcome to The Curious Senior. Curiosity has no age limit, and here, seniors share their passions and talents with each other. So, let's stay curious, stay creative, and explore together. Have you ever wanted to create your very own book? Inspired by my collection of over 500 golden books for children, I have finally fulfilled a lifelong dream and learned how to create my very own children's books. Are you curious? Let me show you how I did it. Were you ever curious about how to write your own book? Any kind. Maybe your life or your family or something you just wanted to share. I was. All my life I wanted to write and illustrate children's books. I was curious about how to do it. I had collected over 500 children's books over the years, and they inspired me even more about wanting to illustrate my own. It all ended up with me actually completing and illustrating and publishing 4 wonderful children's books. But let me start at the very beginning. Funny thing is, my dad wrote a story a long time ago in 1977. It was about his family and about how they had to cross the mountains of Europe to come to America to be free. I actually still have the typewritten pages that he did back in 1977. I've been holding it all these years because I wanted to do something with it. He wanted me to do something with it because the book that he did was a little hard for my kids to understand. So he put it in the name of a little ant. And little ant had to cross all kinds of adversity to be free. I wanted my handcrafted books to have a time-honored appeal. And so I actually wanted it to have something original and not be done on any kind of a digital format. I created the story of Anteline, the little brave ant. That was my first book. And this was all hand-drawn and painted with watercolor paints. The first one is Anteline's Brave Adventure. It's a wonderful story about a little ant that seeks her freedom. The second one is called Anteline's True Discovery. In this story, little red ant Anteline is searching for the meaning of her own life, her own family history, and what else there is to do with her life. I worked with another friend on the art for the characters, and I did all the botanicals and painted all the backgrounds.
Hi, my name is Sue Fleischman, and I created Anteline, the drawing. And she started out as a little stick figure, and she morphed into a more three-dimensional little character with a personality, and she had a particular look. I made her out of clay, and here she is just sitting down on a rock. And I tried to get that personality on paper. So here she is meeting another ant along the way on her journey.
The process is very, very challenging in the beginning until you understand what you're doing. But once you get a story idea and you write down all the pieces of the story, you end up putting it into a storyboard, a little storyboard that will kind of lay out the pages for you. And once you do that, you get a really strong idea of how the story will come together. I started laying out the pages, and then because I didn't have the drawings finished at that point, I actually just glued typewritten and magazine pictures into a format here that I actually tried to lay the book out to get a real sense and feel of what my Anteline, my brave little ant, was going to be dealing with in terms of putting it all together. And little by little, I got to a point where it began to really become a book. And actually it became 3 different books, because once I did one, I went on to do others. It's easy once you have an idea. Let me show you. Here's a really simple idea I started a long time ago for young kids. I started it because I'd taken my little grandson to the park one day, and when we left the park, his balloon slipped out of his hand and flew up into a tree. And he was very upset about it, and he asked me what would happen to the balloon, especially after dark. So I came up with an idea to write a little poem about in the park after dark. And once I did that, I had a little story on my mind. Again, I laid it all out in a storyboard format, all about the balloon and what happens to it in the park after dark. And the next step, this is just as simple as it is, I just took some big pieces of paper and just started laying out the pages one at a time so that I could figure out where the art was going to go and what the storyline would be. The next step after that is to take it a little bit further along into something like a draft that looks closer to a finished picture. And then, of course, start working on the final ideas. I haven't finished that one yet, but I'm really going to do it after all. I have kind of put it on the sidelines while I was working on my latest book. In my latest book, Taking the Plunge, I had an idea to write something about ducklings. Every spring I watched the ducks near my home on the lake, and every year little wood ducks jumped from their nests high up in the trees, plunging into the water below. I had no idea that little wood ducks were one of the few ducks in the world that actually have to take a dive like that. It's pretty scary. So it kind of inspired me to write a story about a little wood duck that didn't have the courage in the beginning to take that plunge, hence the name, Taking the Plunge. And I came up with that idea and then started sketching it all out. At first I wasn't sure what my little wood duck should look like. I thought maybe she should have curly hair like me. But then I decided that maybe I should make them more realistic. So I came up with all kinds of sketches. And I enjoyed working so much on this one. The first couple of books were all in watercolor, but this particular book was all in my trusty pencils over here. I love working with these pencils. They really give you a lot of freedom in how you can approach your colors and the depth of the picture and so forth. And I want to show you just a little sample of what a poor little wood duck goes through when they have to jump. Once I put the story together, I realized I needed to make it longer because it was going to be fitting into a format for something called KDP, which is a self-publishing program on Amazon. And in order to do that, it had to be 34 pages. So I needed to add it on another little character. I decided to add on a bullfrog. It really helped the storyline a lot. And I took a lot of ideas from my golden books because there's lots of animals and little woodland characters and pond characters in the stories in my golden books. And again, I had to do the whole story idea, demonstrating, how to lay the whole book out. And I put it into the storyboard format and went through all the different steps of how to put a storyboard together. As a matter of fact, over here on the table is one of the books in the beginning when I started developing the duck pictures and putting it all together, and it was fun. I had a really good time doing it. One of the things I wanted to mention is when you draw a picture you like, if you're into the drawing part of it, and you like it, but now it's got to be transferred into a final illustration, you trace it. It sounds kind of funny, but that's the way all famous artists have done this in the past, before they did things digitally. You trace it onto the final page, and then you start doing all your final work on it. That's the way it happened when I was working on the Anteline books, when I worked with my friend, and again on my own. I had a little bit more freedom with that because I could change the art as I went along. Since finishing and creating all these books, I've had some wonderful opportunities to present at libraries and bookstores. I've been interviewed online and in print, and I've even taught a workshop to young kids on how to write their own storybooks at a local bookstore. That was fun. Teaching kids how to, and inspiring them on how to create their own books is very, very fulfilling. I also have my own website where folks can link to Amazon to buy my books or sign up for some fundraising opportunities with my books. I do buy them at cost, and I give them away back basically to nonprofits to use for fundraising opportunities, as long as their methodology and their goal is to support kids in their understanding of nature and the world around us. This has been a rewarding and fulfilling hobby for me. The most fun is meeting the kids and sharing my books with them. I've also created activities like coloring sheets and bug bracelets and bookmarks with stickers with ducks on them, and even little plays where kids can act out the stories. You never know what joy fulfilling your own dreams can bring you and others. What are you curious about? Hi there, I'm so happy to be here today to tell you about my latest book. It's called Anteline's Community Circle. Thank you for joining us on The Curious Senior. If you enjoyed today's episode or have ideas for future topics, we'd love to hear from you. Remember, you're never too old to learn something new, and sharing your talents with fellow seniors keeps us all inspired. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.